everyone. Welcome to our webinar today around the PLTW Gateway. My name is Andrea Holsworth, and I serve as the Vice President of Sales Enablement and Customer Operations at Project Lead the Way. Today, we welcome educators across the country to discover ways that PLTW can provide exceptional learning experiences for students and to share how to make programs like Project Lead the Way possible through various funding opportunities. Before we begin today, I'm going to share a few housekeeping tips and tricks on how to maximize your webinar experience. We have several PLTW team members joining us today to moderate the Q&A as well as the chat box. Please feel free to join the conversation, share a story in the chat, or ask questions by engaging with our fellow participants and subject matter experts. Our team members will also be available to answer questions during the webinar, and you can ask those questions via the Q&A. Feel free to go ahead and start submitting questions when you'd like. Don't worry, if we aren't able to answer your question live today, we'll follow up after this webinar with additional information and answers to any of those outstanding questions. Again, I encourage you to make this interactive, engage with us, ask questions, and share stories in the chat. And feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And then at the very end of this, we'll have a next step survey that you can fill out and share some information with us. Today, we're going to give you a brief introduction to Project Lead the Way and what it provides to you and your students. We'll hear from students about their experiences with PLTW Gateway. Then we'll have a discussion with a panel of teachers and administrators about the successes they've had and how they've implemented PLTW Gateway and funded their program. After hearing from your peers, we'll show you what it's like to be immersed in a PLTW Gateway classroom. Then we'll share information about grants and federal funding opportunities available to schools and districts. And finally, we'll round out our time together by answering any questions that you may have. Middle school is a time of exploration, a time when students are figuring out what they are passionate about today and how that relates to who they'll become tomorrow. The PLTW Gateway classroom experience engages students, fueling that exploration. Time and time again, we hear stories about student discovery with PLTW, how students who normally don't step forward are the ones who shine in a PLTW classroom. It's all about the effect on the teaching experience. We hear how teachers who've reached a burnout point have been reinvigorated once they've had a chance to teach PLTW. The stories are consistent. PLTW's research-proven, hands-on, problem-based curriculum unlocks students' and teachers' potential. During this transitional time, PLTW Gateway inspires career confidence and empowers students to lead their own discovery. The hands-on PLTW program boosts classroom engagement and excitement. It drives collaboration and sparks those aha moments and deep comprehension. And we'll hear a little bit more about those aha moments later. As students engage in the program's pathways in computer science, engineering, and biomedical science, they see the range of career paths and possibilities that are available to them. PLTW's unique problem-based instructional approach supports students' ownership of their learning, provides appropriate scaffolding, and prepares students to tackle real-world challenges. Industry-validated curriculum empowers students to gain the in-demand transportable skills that are highly sought after by employers. And finally, our pre-K through 12 focus progressively prepares students for more challenging, higher level work and ensures that students can develop a deep understanding of concepts and practices as they advance on to high school. So when we say career discovery and career exploration, what do we mean? Here are just a few examples of that. In the unit Computer Science for Innovators and Makers, students think like hardware and software engineers, physical computing technicians and artists, and wearable technology designers. In the Design and Modeling unit, they assume the roles of drafting engineer, design engineer, mechanical engineer, and statistician as they use the design process to solve problems. And in Medical Detectives, students explore a variety of career paths as they act as emergency room doctors and nurses, microbiologists, neurologists, epidemiologists, and so many more ologists. The 10 units within the PLTW Gateway program provide a variety of possibilities to serve the needs of each school's students and communities. And because real-world problems are not confined to just one discipline, the curriculum engages students in interdisciplinary learning that integrates multiple fields of study. To ensure that more middle school students have early and equal access and can leverage the opportunities created by the PLTW experience, we offer all PLTW Gateway units in both English and in Spanish. All teacher and student materials are available in both languages at no additional investment. And this is to support a variety of immersion models. We'd like to thank our transformative partner, Chevron, for their generous support in making this available for students across the country. And to prepare educators to lead the learning and build their confidence in subject areas, we provide transformative professional development at PLTW. PLTW core training is designed to create dynamic learning experiences for educators through powerful and flexible instructional support, as well as they have that ongoing professional community. During core training, teachers take on the role of a student. They engage in in-depth exploration of PLTW coursework, and they gain invaluable experience to take right back into their classrooms. Additionally, PLTW's Professional Development Suite gives all pre-K through 12 educators additional instructional and skills-based training to continue to build upon that student's success. Our Professional Development Suite is continuing to add additional trainings throughout the academic year, and you don't even have to be a PLTW teacher to register for any of our professional development and within our Professional Development Suite. A full list of the PD Suite offerings can be found on our website. And set to launch in the 24-25 school year, PLTW Algebra 1 Advantage is a new supplemental curriculum designed to revolutionize the teaching of Algebra 1. Its flexible nature allows teachers to effortlessly integrate these resources into their existing curriculum. The program focuses on enhancing student engagement in algebra through active participation and exploration. It achieves this by offering a variety of problems and projects that are not only relevant, but also aligned with educational standards, facilitating their incorporation into lesson plans. PLTW's Algebra 1 Advantage adopts an interactive approach that links algebra to real-world scenarios, effectively answering that common question that we ask and answer all the time: when am I ever going to use this? This connection to practical applications serves to improve students' problem-solving skills. In response to the limitation of traditional teaching methods, the program also employs interactive and applied learning techniques to make algebra even more engaging and relevant. This is achieved by including a range of topics like financial literacy, societal and environmental impact, law, criminology, architecture, engineering, and more, thereby enriching the overall experience. We know that some 8th graders actually take Algebra 1. And so, yes, you can offer Algebra 1 to your middle school students. We invite everyone to follow our progress as we continue to develop Algebra 1 Advantage over this upcoming year. If you want some more information, feel free to bring that phone out right now and scan that QR code. Or you can also go to our website to learn more about our Algebra 1 Advantage. And we'll put that link in the chat for you as well. Whew. So now that you've had a chance to hear me talk for a little bit, and we've provided that big picture view of PLTW and our PLTW Gateway program, we wanted you to hear directly from some of our PLTW students. Last fall, we were able to connect directly with some PLTW students around their experience in the Gateway classroom. While watching the interviews, keep an eye and an ear out for those transportable skills we just talked about a minute ago that these students will possess. We couldn't be more proud of these students, and we hope that you are as well after you get done hearing from them.
Back to the ESOL students, it's really been awesome to see them integrated into lessons. Most of the time, they're off to the side in the classroom, not really understanding everything, but, being able to have the Spanish curriculum, they're being able to work with the English speakers, not feel left out.
My favorite thing about Project Lead the Way is working together as a team to build mechanical solutions to problems.
The thing I enjoyed most about PLTW is being able to work with other people and do hands-on activities and problem solve on our own, helping each other, and yeah, it's just been a great experience.
I've been through, like Mr. Max said, the courses, automation and robotics. I've been through app creators and in computer science for innovators and makers. And out of those three, my favorite has been app creators. Through this course, I've been able to find my passion for computer science. And it was just in 6th grade when I realized that I wanted to be a software engineer, have my future tech company. And it's just been, amazing since then.
My favorite project I did in Project Lead the Way was definitely the toll booth. I really like this project because of the challenge of trying to make the moving parts work and not fail.
The project that I enjoyed most and really loved in PLTW was the car project. So being able to create a car with your teammates and doing work and error codes and seeing what works and what doesn't, what's the most efficient way to build the car was really fun for me. And I also enjoyed the competitive side of everything, like talking with other groups and trying to make your car faster than other groups and using different techniques than them. And I really enjoyed that part of the car project.
I'm always so impressed by PLTW students when they share with us their experiences. So now that you've heard from some of our students, we now want to open it up to our panelists. We'll be sharing some of their experiences, and you'll hear directly from them about their implementation and the way that they brought PLTW Gateway to their students. So thank you so much to our panelists for being here with us today and sharing your stories. I want to give a quick introduction, and then we'll start diving into some of those questions. So first with us here is Christine Plumere, National PLTW Gateway Teacher of the Year. And yes, she was just recognized a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Dave Dimmitt, our CEO, went to her school and showcased her and the learning that she's providing to her students. She's from Sevier Middle School in Greenville County School District in Greenville, South Carolina. We also have with us Andrew Glackfelter, PLTW Outstanding Administrator from Antelope Valley Union High School District in Lancaster, California. And also with us today is Julie Mayu, PLTW Outstanding Administrator, West Baton Rouge Parish Schools in Port Allen, Louisiana. As you can see, we have administrators from all across the U.S. with us here today. So as we get started here for our conversation, feel free to add those questions to the Q&A or the chat, and we'll get to them just a little bit later. But first, let's start. Christine, can you share with us really, what was your initial motivation for bringing PLTW Gateway to your school and district? And how did you first start your implementation? What did that look like?
So our school district understood the importance of STEAM 10 years ago, and they opened a brand new school called Fisher Middle School that was a STEAM PBL-based school in part of the county, and they wanted one in another part of the county. So instead of opening a school, they decided just to kind of bring us in for that. So I was initially trained in the design and modeling course and the automation and robotics course. Went to training for 1 week for both of those. It was an intensive training, but wonderful. And then came back and really just followed through the curriculum that allowed me to go step by step with the kids and introduce them to the activities and go forward. And I have never looked back. It is so much fun. Love it.
That's great. Thanks, Christina. We'll touch base on that professional development you just shared a little bit ago, or in just a little bit. Andy or Andrew, will you go ahead and share with us about your implementation? I know you've been implementing since 2011, so share with us what that looks like then and why you brought PLTW to your students.
Right. In 2011, the Lancaster School District in California chose to open its newest K-8 school as a STEM academy. So in looking at an engineering curriculum, we brought together a committee to look at the options. So we had teachers, administrators, community members, businesses looking at what we might want. And Project Lead the Way, after we attended a couple of orientations, really was our solution. It was turnkey PD. The curriculum, the content was the best fit for us. And we found that the intensive training not only helped our teachers who didn't have any background in engineering themselves become comfortable, but there was also an embedded community of teachers that they could reach out to for support. The materials lists that we had were really clear. And then in the years that followed, we grew the program to offer all of our students 3 modules per year for a total of 9 modules during their 6th or 8th grades. And we wanted to offer an engineering class to every student every day. And that's been really popular with parents. And we're excited about the program we've been able to offer.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, Andy, around the professional learning community that is part of Project Lead the Way that teachers have access to, trained with like-minded teachers and really gaining some of that support and networking. Julie, what about you in Louisiana? Share with us how you implemented and why you chose to implement PLTW.
Sure. Well, initially, prior to moving to the school board 4.5 years ago, I was assistant principal at Bruley High School, and we had already implemented the engineering pathway at our school through Project Lead the Way. And we started thinking that we'd love for our middle schools to do that. So when I moved to become secondary and then CTE supervisor, it was sort of a natural progression to do Gateway at our middle schools. And we also wanted the middle schools not only to have access to STEM, but also in the pathways we offered at the high school. So they got an opportunity to experience some of those courses. And then we kind of branched into computer science and biomedical and all the things. So it really was based, we fell in love with the action-based learning approach that Project Lead the Way does. And we wanted to share that with our feeder schools so they could have those opportunities prior to getting to high school.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, the feeder, really getting students prepared so they can opt in when they go into the high school. And I love how you said it, action-based. That's a great way to say it, Julie. So Andy, this question is for you. I would love to hear a little bit more, since you've been doing it since 2011. What impact have you seen on your students having PLTW Gateway?
There's the unmute. Okay. The impact has been tremendous. We talk about the application of learning to real life context. So it's been really helpful using Project Lead the Way for that. I don't know about you, but in our context, post-COVID, we see a lot of students who are having trouble with motivation. And what I've seen is that Project Lead the Way supports making learning fun and rigorous. And it helps students see that if they struggle with a concept at first, we use that engineering design process that teaches students to stick with it, leading to grit to their long-term success. So I think there's a valuable life lesson in that, as well as an academic one. And in the long term, several students who have taken our Gateway classes in middle school are now completing engineering degrees. And to see that path from Gateway to the high school academies and pathways that our district offers, to now seeing students pursuing that in college, there are a lot of unfilled jobs out there, and a lot of unfilled engineering jobs that pay really well. And it feels like we're not just changing a kid's life, it feels like we're changing a family tree, because it has an impact from then on.
Oh, absolutely. I love that you brought that up, Andy. And I'm sure it's pretty fun to have those students come back after they've graduated with their engineering degree and tell middle school students, hey, I was in this class with, years ago. Look where I am now. Christine, can you share a little bit about your experience and the students that you've seen and the impact PLTW has had on them?
Oh my gosh, it really comes down to the relationship. So because we're doing these in-depth and really fun projects, you really get to know the child and you get to see them on a creative level and all the different levels about them. And they take your courses year after year. So I keep in contact with them up until college for the same thing of where they're at college coming back and telling me, and not all of them become engineers, but they're really learning that communication and teamwork that they can take out to any industry that they're interested in going in. So really relational. And I love what Andrew said a second ago. They're excited about the learning. So they don't want to leave my classroom. They want to stay and finish the project and build a robot or work on their CAD software some more. So it's almost difficult to get them to leave my room because they're having so much fun. And as they are, they're learning all of these technical skills and soft skills that they don't even realize.
Yeah, I love that you touch on that, Christine. And I have a follow-up question to that, Christine. So you talked about that student engagement and having a wide variety of students. In your mind, who is PLTW Gateway for? What kind of, as a student, who should enroll in PLTW Gateway?
It's the hands-on kids. So it's so interesting. The kids that actually succeed very well in your class are not always the typical kids that succeed in the other classes. So I do get those straight A kids. And I'll be honest, they struggle a little bit at first because they're having to learn how to think on their own and problem solve. And that is difficult for them. They're used to just doing what the teacher told them to do 2 or 3 times over and regurgitate and get that right answer. And with real life, there is not always one right answer. There's different ways to solve it. And so really it's so interesting for me to watch the students that succeed instantly in my class are the ones that are more hands-on learning, or that are able to adapt quick to different scenarios
Mhm.
and different learning styles. And then to watch the more traditional students struggle a little bit to
Mhm.
engage in that kind of learning is amazing from the beginning of the semester to the end, how much they grow with that. So yeah, hands-on one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said earlier, those students who may not shine in another class are really shining in PLTW. And I think it also, as you mentioned, the kind of those straight A students, it helps them learn differently as well. So they're sitting right alongside other students in that learning, a fail forward mindset.
Yeah.
Julie, I'd love to hear from your side, from that administrative perspective. What impact has PLTW Gateway had on your teachers?
They absolutely love it. They love their trainings. Like you said, Christine, it's very intense, but they get to be students, right? They get to be hands-on as well. And I think for them, we talk about core classes and we state testing and all the requirements. And sometimes people use scripted curriculum and you're locked in sometimes, even though we enhance those things. And I think with
Mhm.
Project Leading the Way, there's so many different directions that teachers can take a particular project. And to speak to what Christine said a little bit earlier, is that sometimes those kids struggle who just want an immediate answer and not, they got to want to work and improve and gain. And I think the teachers love seeing their kids grow and think. And also, like Christine said, those kids stay connected their entire time, especially the kids in engineering when you have robotics competitions and we have STEM competitions, and our teachers are more competitive, I think, than the students. We just had one a few weeks ago, and the teachers were at the leaderboard like, let's go, and you could hear a scream every time their kid did something, and they'd come check on them and like, oh, you can't help them. And they're like, I'm not, but it was just funny to watch. So I think the teachers are enjoying seeing their kids learn in that creative process.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear it often, time and time again, that reinvigorates them to be excited again in the classroom in some ways. And so, Christine, obviously you've been through that professional development. Can you share your perspective as a teacher, what that professional development felt like?
So I have to put out there that my original degree in training, I have a degree in psychology and wanted to teach middle school math. That's what I wanted. That's what I thought I was best at. I was very much intimidated by the idea of teaching engineering. I knew nothing about engineering or robotics. The training was very intensive. Everything the kids are going to do in a semester, you do in that week. And so you complete every project working in groups. And it is wonderful because you get to experience everything from the student side, including the struggles, which allow you to relate to the student as well. That's saying, I struggle with this too, but I just kept trying and I was able to figure it out. And it made me feel so much better. So the training is just wonderful because everything is right there for you, to be able to look back and reference. And again, you're treated as a student, so you are able to see all the content and go through it.
Yeah, I love that. It really does allow you to have that experience so that if you're going to struggle, your students may struggle through some of that. Thanks, Christine, for sharing that perspective. So now we're gonna change gears just a little bit, and talk a little bit more around the student experience a bit. So, Andy, we'll tee you up for this one first. We know, and you mentioned this earlier, that students everywhere experience some learning loss in the last couple of years. Are you still feeling that within your school or district? If you are, have you seen that PLTW Gateway is helping close that gap or part of that solution?
Absolutely. So, as I said before, we see post-COVID, a lot of students struggle with motivation, with finding purpose, finding their why. And this whole idea of using engineering to make learning fun and challenging and achievable, I feel like we give the purpose behind what we do in the math and science classes. So really, they blend together really well. We've added some field trips to places like NASA and JPL and Northrop Grumman, and inviting guest speakers in. And that way we get to see students to see where the end goal is of where STEM can take them. And then we can come back to Gateway as the starting point to say, now that you have all these cool ideas of what you can do with your life, things you can do with math and science, here's Gateway as the means to teach how to learn these skills and concepts, how to learn these professional skills of collaboration with one another that we expect students to know, but we don't always explicitly teach. So Gateway is outstanding for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those kind of making those relevant connections for sure. So Christine, or I'll start with you, Christine. Have you seen that with your students?
Yeah, it really is that invigorating where they want to be in there and they don't even really understand what they're learning. They don't understand they're learning teamwork and they're learning to document their work and rethink through things. And they are using math and they are using writing and English and they're having to research things. So all of these skills are in there that they're using, but again, they don't realize that they're doing it because they're so engaged in the project or the competition or solving the problem that they have to do. So yeah, it's been great for us.
That's awesome. Thanks, Christine. Well, now we're going to switch gears just a bit and talk about funding. So we know that there are different funding options when you're implementing PLTW, and we'll talk about what the investment looks like in just a minute. But Julie, I'd love to hear from your administrator perspective. How did you fund your implementation of Gateway?
So we are very fortunate that we have a variety of funding sources for our programs. Like most of us, we have Perkins funding, and sometimes middle schools should be part of that. They aren't always, but we make sure we are. Obviously, we've used ESSER the last 3 years to really kind of front load, right, some of our programs and get ahead a little bit. But we also have state funding through several grants and through our career and technical education programs, and then local funding. We have Dow Chemical as a partner. They sponsor actually our hands-on science lab, where our teachers have access to materials, and now we've moved those each to schools. Olin is a great sponsor for us. Exxon, Shell. We received a grant through Lockheed Martin for computer science. So all those things have been enabled us to not really struggle with funding for Project Lead the Way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Julie, for sharing that. Andy, you mentioned partners that you take your students to. I'd love to hear if they're assisting in any of your funding or anything along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that really it starts with getting support of your district. And we had made some presentations to the board about the priority of funding. And so that supported us as well as including it in our school plan. And then in terms of business partners, once we shared what we were doing, Project Lead the Way came along to support with grants for us for Verizon for $20,000. And the Air Force Research Lab out here gave us $100,000, as well as 5 grants from Northrop Grumman that totaled over $53,000. So when we shared with businesses what we were doing with the money they'd given us and invited them to come in and see, we made the front page of the paper several times. It gave the businesses this feeling of satisfaction of we're putting the funds to really good use. And when they could see that, it turned into additional donations. So there definitely are a lot of grants, and Project Lead the Way has helped with that too.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Andy. And we'll talk about our grant program in just a minute. But I loved what you mentioned about bringing the community alongside you. And you also mentioned parent engagement earlier as well. And I think that is crucial because it really showcases everything students are learning. And employers are just surprised every time they walk into a PLTW classroom, the vocabulary students are utilizing, but also the knowledge and skills they have. Well, I have one last question, and Christine, we'll tee this one up for you. Can you share any in your time in the classroom? I know you've had many aha moments, but can you share maybe a big aha moment that you've had or that one of your students have had with PLTW Gateway?
I think my big aha moments are when they really, really struggle and then they get it to work and figure it out on their own. It's just every time it's so refreshing. Last year, I had a student tell me at the end of the day, towards the end of the semester, he was kind of like crying a little bit, but he was like, "This is my favorite class ever, but it's also the hardest class ever." And so he just couldn't ever get it to quite right click, but he never gave up. And so that's really it. Just sitting back and watching them struggle and then overcome it. And it's like, oh, I can figure this out. I can learn something new. This growth mindset thing is real. So that's what I really love.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Christine, for sharing that story. Those always just bring a smile to your face, right? Like it just is exciting to hear those what you're doing is matters to students and impacting them. Christine, I do have a question I think would from the chat that would probably be teed up best for you. So Savannah is a PLTW teacher offering a variety of courses, units, design and modeling, automation, robotics, and all of our gateway units are designed to be 9 weeks or a semester, depending how often you meet with students. But can you share? She had mentioned that automation and robotics works best in 18 weeks as opposed to 9. Just because of the build time probably that's there. Are there any other units that you can think of that really would do well for 18 weeks?
Oh, yes. Design and modeling. You can definitely spread that one out for a longer time. Most of what PLTW does, especially with app creators, design and modeling, and automation and robotics, can really be a lot larger than what you let them be. So it's kind of nice after you teach it a year or two, you kind of pick what you like and do what's going to fit best for your population and your students. So design and modeling is one I think that you can definitely fit in 18 weeks and grow out. I feel like app creators is the same way. And then all the other units, you can add things again that again fit with your area. But I do think those are the 2, maybe 3 that definitely adhere to that. Yes, computer science.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Andy give the thumbs up as well. And Julie says computer science for innovators and makers. So I really like what you said, Christine, around you can make some extensions and deepen some of that student learning and engagement as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for answering these questions we had. And I'm sure we'll still be getting some questions. We'll have Q&A at the end. So feel free to keep adding those questions to the chat and we'll get our panelists to answer them following this. Well, one of the best ways to find out about a PLTW classroom is to actually visit a PLTW classroom and to see students and teachers in action. Unfortunately, we're not able to get you physically in a classroom today, but we want to provide you the next best thing, which is a 2-minute peek at what a PLTW classroom can be. I don't know about you, but I always love seeing the PLTW classroom and seeing that experience. One thing I will add here is if you're interested in seeing if there's a PLTW school around you that you could go and visit in person, we'll be adding our PLTW school locator to the chat. That showcases every school across the country that's offering PLTW. So thank you to all those students and teachers for sharing their PLTW programs with us today. And we just heard from our panelists how they have seen firsthand the way that PLTW has transformed the learning and teaching in their schools. But the first step in that transformation process is in creating a strategic plan. And part of that plan is having a detailed view of the required investments and identifying the funding sources that you can utilize to support your implementation. The investment in PLTW programs may vary, but each program includes 3 categories, or I always like to say there's 3 buckets to your implementation investment. The first bucket is participation fees, second is professional development, and the third is equipment and supplies. That participation fee is an annual fee that covers all of the curriculum access and software rights for your PLTW program, and that is by building. The second bucket is professional development. In order to teach a PLTW course, you must attend some professional development with us. Christine just mentioned her PLTW professional development experience a little bit ago, and that professional development is hosted by our master teachers who are veteran PLTW teachers. And then lastly, our third bucket is equipment and supplies. Our curriculum is project-based and it is very hands-on, as you saw, and then you also heard from our panelists. So there are some equipment and supplies that you will need for your implementation. And if you're interested in developing what your investment can look like for your implementation, we have team members who are ready and to assist you in developing that quote. And we have our implementations team who can assist in developing a 3-year implementation plan right alongside you and your teachers to find the best implementation for your students. So now that we know more about what the investment is, what's needed, let's talk some more about some of those funding opportunities that you have to help you grow your programs. Andy mentioned this just a little bit ago, and so did Julie, but every year we have a wide variety of PLTW grants available for all programs, including brand new programs and program expansion. These PLTW grants are made possible by our partnerships with leading organizations across the country. As you can see, just a few of them listed here. Over the last 10 years, with the support from these generous partners, PLTW has distributed over $75 million in school grants to more than 6,600 pre-K through 12 schools. And this year, we have more grants available to schools than we have ever before. We have a brand new opportunities coming all the time, so please continue to check out our website where we list all of our grant opportunities. And again, we're ready to assist you, have a team member meet with you one-to-one on how to complete your application and get it ready to go. Through these grants, PLTW will partner with your school or district to help you throughout that entire PLTW implementation journey and beyond. Applying for PLTW grants is easy through our simple application process located in your My PLTW account. If you don't have one, no problem. You can absolutely create one. It's really easy on our website. And when I say our application process is simple and easy, I mean, once you have your implementation plan designed, ready to go, I would say that our application probably is going to be the easiest grant application you've ever completed. And it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete. We award grants on a rolling basis from July 1 to June 30th. So schools may submit applications annually, and we do keep that grant application on file, like I said, until June 30th of each year. So you could be considered for more than one grant opportunity each cycle. Our PLTW grant opportunities are amazing. And like I said, this year, we have more funding available for schools to apply for. So we encourage everyone to apply. In addition to PLTW grants, there are federal funding options to help grow your PLTW programs. And a couple of our panelists mentioned some of those, such as Perkins funds. And as a reminder, Perkins funds can be utilized for that middle school level as well. Noting specific call out to evidence-based curriculum and evidence-based support, I want to be sure that you know about our evidence-based papers, which we have one of these for each of our grade bands. And these enable you to dive deeper into the structure of our evidence-based curriculum, learn about our unique problem-based or that PBL approach, and you can review the research supporting the positive impact PLTW has on student achievement. And you can download these from our website. Besides PLTW grants, there are several federal funding options for you to utilize. To help you break it down and to compare, we have created a funding side-by-side resource that's also available on our website. This resource will help you see available available federal funds and which funds can be used for each of our 3 investment buckets. So you're probably wondering, whew, heard a lot today. Where do I even start? Well, we're here to help you get started at PLTW. We do recommend that you connect with a PLTW team member after this to discuss any questions you have, to develop that implementation plan, to help write your grant application, to get you connected to PLTW schools in your area. You can also visit our PLTW.org website. This website has our PLTW Gateway page, where you can see a wide range of resources like our science standards alignments, our unit outlines, and summaries to help you plan your implementation. You can read blog stories about how other schools have unlocked potential with PLTW. And you can access those additional funding resources like the American Rescue Plan, Perkins, ESSA on our funding and grants opportunities page. And I've said it a couple of times, I'm going to say it one more time. Definitely apply for a PLTW grant, and you can do that on pltw.org as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day to interact with us and connect with us. We are going to be launching a quick poll to find out what next steps the PLTW team can help you with. And you should be seeing that pop up right now on your Zoom screen. And within a week, you'll receive an email with a recording of this webinar and additional resources to help answer any questions that you may have. Again, if you'd like to connect one-to-one with a PLTW team member to develop that plan, we're here to support you in that. If you don't know who your team member is that supports you, feel free to contact our PLTW Solution Center, and they'll get you connected with the right person. Our PLTW Solution Center is open 24/7. Yep, 24/7. We know that between 8 and 5 isn't the only time that people are working, and they can be reached via email or phone, and we'll add that to the chat so that you have it, and we'll also include it in a follow-up email. Well, this concludes the official presentation portion of our webinar today. But our team members and our panelists are going to stay on to answer any questions that you may have. So feel free, keep adding those in there, and then we'll get those answered. And if you have to head out and you don't want to stay for that Q&A, thank you again for joining us. I'm now going to ask my PLTW team member, Rob, can you share with me the questions that were listed in that Q&A?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob, and I'm with the marketing team here at PLTW. Andrea, we do have a couple of questions here. And the first one is, can anyone teach PLTW? I've never taught computer science or engineering or STEM before. So
Yeah,
I guess that's
absolutely.
for you or the panelists.
Yeah, actually, Christina, I don't know if you want to hop back on and share kind of your story around what your original major was. That would be helpful. And then we can maybe hear from one of the other panelists as well.
Yeah, my original degree is psychology, and then I have a degree in elementary education. So I have no engineering background. I think I cried when I saw the robot parts the first time. But really, because the training is so hands-on, and I believe there were about 15 of us in a class with 2 master teachers, and they just walk you through everything. And they do let you struggle, like you're going to let the kids struggle, but they walk you through. And what was nice is what my principal told me going into it, and what some other people told me is, I don't need to go in there with a degree in engineering. I don't need to go in there knowing everything. I just need to be able to go in there and guide the kids to want to figure out how to solve these problems and get them started down these paths. And then they go. So it was super nice that I was able to actually do it with none of that background. The background in math, I think, helps. I think a background in science helps a little bit too, but I know a fireman that taught PLTW, and he did a wonderful job. So it's really more about your relationship with kids, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. And one of the things I always say is that find your teacher who is excited, potentially comfortable with technology, comfortable kind of learning alongside your students as well, and that fail forward mindset.
Yeah, and not a traditional classroom. That took me a minute to get used to. It is not I stand up, you take notes, and we practice doing the same things 3 times over. It's a very untraditional classroom. So you have to be able to see the kids actively engaged and be okay that they're out of their seat. But it's amazing too, because how many are actively engaged all the time. So anyways, I'll mute again.
Yeah, no, thanks, Christine. I don't know, Andy or Julie, if you want to share. I know you guys have been implementing for a while, so I'd love to hear kind of your experience with your teachers.
Sure, I'll jump in. The 6 teachers
I don't know
at
if y'all
my
can,
Andy, I'll go let you go first there. Thanks.
All right. The 6 teachers at my school had no background in engineering or computer science at all, and after the training, felt comfortably confident to deliver the instruction. And they found that once they knew a bit about the programs that they were implementing, by letting kids run free with it, the kids would learn and pick up things and then teach each other and then be able to answer questions for each other as well. So the teachers did feel pretty quickly really confident. And as I said before, there is that community of teachers as well within Project Lead the Way that own their own PLC, so that they could ask questions that were maybe a little more technical, that there was no one on site who had those answers. They had a community of resources.
I love that. Comfortably confident. That's a great way to say it. And Julie shared in the chat, her audio is breaking up just a little bit, but what she referenced is that teachers who love some chaos, maybe a little loud in the classroom, but love student voice and it's not as structured, which Christine also mentioned that. So thanks, panelists, for sharing that. Rob, is there another question in the chat for us?
Yeah, there is one other, and this one is, what kind of support is offered for first year implementation of PLTW?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you all have been implementing for a while, but Andy, I know that you mentioned some PLTW team or was alongside you in your support. I know it was a long time ago, but can you just share what your experience with the PLTW support has been?
I think it starts by making sure that you have the support and direction from your district. So talking with our district assistant superintendent of education services, talking with the school board, they were so behind it that they wanted to find a way to make it work. And so that was really helpful from the very beginning. But then making priorities of expenditures within our school plan was sort of our next step. And then reaching out to both Project Lead the Way with the grants and also businesses to say, here's the exact need that I have. I need this many dollars. And there are a lot of businesses who say, when you have this plan of how you're going to spend the money, we really want to support that. It was exciting for the businesses to see it in action as well. So there are a lot of opportunities out there for grants, more than I expected at first.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Andy. And one of the things I'll share is that PLTW has a whole team devoted to assisting schools with their implementation. And we are here to work alongside you with your implementation. We have a whole implementations team, as well as our engagement team. I referenced the Solution Center a little bit ago as well, and they are here to support implementation as well. If there's ever any questions, we want to help schools. And we know that first year is critical for your implementation. So we want you to have the best foundation.
I want to throw in there too that when you go to training, because you spend a week with them, they really become like a support system. So your mentor teacher, your master teachers, they are available for you to email and text and share things with you and resources, along with the other new teachers you're starting with. So there's that whole community for you as well. PLTW has a wonderful community where everybody really is all about helping each other.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Christine. I always say the power of PLTW is in our network. We have thousands and thousands of teachers who've been trained in Project Lead the Way. And like Christine said, they're all there to support. And your master teachers are there with you, especially that first year for your implementation. Well, and looking in that Q&A, I think that is about it for the day. Feel free to, quickly add a question, or if you want to email the Solution Center, we'll get that question answered as well. But thank you all for joining us today. And especially thank you to our panelists for sharing their experiences with us. And we are ready to see PLTW in your classroom. So if you have questions, we're here to help you along your implementation. But have a great rest of your day.